The Jersey Swap podcast is sponsored by Apollo Home. Folks, your orange and blue are back in action, but chances are your air conditioning has already been running a full match and added extra time, especially this extremely hot week. How about you call up Apollo Home, mention that you are a CST listener, and Mike there will give you a great deal. Give them a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. Hey, welcome back to the Jersey Swap. Jeff Tebbet's once again back in the driver's seat after taking a well-deserved week off. Big thanks to Jason Ashcraft for filling in for the RSL coverage. Yeah, I know whatever happened to Mr. No Days Off. Well, I took a week off, so technically it wasn't a day off. It still counts. Speaking of weirdness, we're in the weird spot in the schedule where the All-Star game has just ended and the Leagues Cup is on the horizon. But if you really want some weirdness, this is deja vu all over again. The last time I ran the podcast, I was covering the upcoming match against Miami. We didn't see the 3-0 Cincinnati victory, so let's see if we can once again predict some success here now that the location is down in South Florida. Joining us tonight is Alex Windley. She writes as a freelance writer for Bleacher Report, and she's covered Inter Miami CF for multiple outlets, and she now joins us for her initial trek into the Jersey Swap. Hi, Alex. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you?
Doing great. How's the weather down in South Florida today?
Yeah, quite brutal. Always hot, sometimes rainy, but Miami nonetheless.
It's summer. I mean, everybody's going to be suffering that for the most part. We wanted to call you in here. Thank you very much for your time. And we want to start with a little small talk. You've written extensively. You seem to be pretty new to sports journalism, but you've got a lot in your game. How did you get started covering soccer?
Well, it started around 2020 in Miami. You know, obviously they were coming into the league, and I was still in college at the time, and then the pandemic hit. So I was just looking to fill my time with something. I'm a communications major, so I naturally just kind of transitioned into journalism and writing, and a few outlets were looking for writers just to cover the new team. And I threw my hat into the ring with Minute Media and Fansided, and I got my start there usually. And then at the time there. And then from there, I guess my writing was competent and accurate and reporting wise enough for people to take notice and to, really, just start inviting me on shows and whatnot, and to have me cover other things. And then from there, Bleacher Report reached out to cover the men's national team, women's national team. I was really privileged enough to be able to cover the 2022 World Cup on the men's side, which was a lot of fun to do that for Bleacher Report. And yeah, I kind of just spiraled from there. And 5-6 years in with Inter Miami, and we signed Messi and all of that good stuff. And it's just been a really cool, surreal whirlwind of just everything that happened within the last 5 years.
Now, I mean, Inter Miami is your main base, but you mentioned the men's team, the women's team. Are there any other teams out there that you gravitate towards, and even if it's fandom or also coverage?
Yeah, for fandom, it's Inter Milan. They're the only European team that I really root for and support. I've been watching them for the last 3-4 years now. Those Champions League finals, of course, they obviously hurt and all that terrible stuff, but. Yeah, Inter Milan, from a fandom perspective, they're the only team I really watch. But, technically, I guess I'm from Miami, so I root for Miami, but I'm not, as a journalist, you have to be unbiased. But, as a person born and raised here, you want to see this team succeed, but naturally, you still got to cover them neutrally. But, yeah, really, it's only really Inter Milan, and of course, I cover Inter Miami.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not be from a spot and not be a homer at times, but I mean, we cover and we bleed when we are cut the teams that are local. But let's cover a little bit about Miami. They've definitely been in the news lately, especially with, like I had mentioned, the All-Star game that had come and gone. Last time I had Daniel Solana on, I tried to make it so that we wouldn't mention Messi's name. We failed miserably. People out there had about 13 drinks with the game that we have. I hope you all didn't get hammered after listening to our show. So we do have to mention him a few times. The first, of course, is going to be this instance with the All-Star game. Both Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba, both Inter Miami, missing from the All-Star game. Has there been any talk about that, justifications other than schedule congestion down there?
Right now they didn't show up to training the other day, so this is not the first time Inter Miami has done this in regards to being coy about potential injuries or whether players are available. They've done it with Messi several times. Specifically, I remember the first year Messi was here, there was an incident where Tata Martino, the coach at the time, just didn't reveal whether or not Messi was fit, and fans got upset, and naturally all that jazz. But regarding the All-Star game, yeah, I think right now I haven't heard if it's injuries. I do think if we're keeping it 100, I do think it's just schedule congestion. And Javier Mascherano did mention that he wasn't necessarily a fan of the All-Star game and how it was, in the middle of the week, and Inter Miami had all these games to play and to catch up with. So the story is obviously, still developing, and I'm interested to see what the team will have to say when the league comes in with whatever suspension, because this is not the first time this has happened, or what have you, or if they are suspended in the first place. But yeah, I'm like internally laughing because it's such a Miami thing. It's not the first time this has happened, so it just, yeah, whatever Don Garber says and whatever Miami comes back with, I guess we'll see. But yeah, right now it's they didn't practice, so right now it's injury for them at the moment. So we will see at this point.
So it just sounds like, overwork a little bit. There has been talk that they've been in the Club World Cup, they've been in the CCC, they've had a lot of games under the belt. It does seem Marciano is playing Messi 90 minutes in some of these games. Is overwork sort of an open discussion in Miami? Are players showing signs of slowdown that justify this type of call?
Well, I'll say for the Barca 4, I do agree that they're absolutely overworked and overplayed right now. I think there were several instances. I think I tweeted about it during the Red Bull game where Miami was up, I think, comfortably up 3-1 at one point, and I was like, maybe this is the time to get some substitutions in. And for Mascherano, he just has this coaching hitch where he refuses to take out Messi or Suarez. We've seen Jordi Alba get substituted, even Busquets, who is an Iron Man who plays almost every single game. He just has this hesitancy to take out Messi and Suarez unless there's like an explicit injury. So yeah, it's an odd thing, and it is definitely overworked. So I can see why they just didn't want to play with the All-Star game at the moment. But yeah, it's just I'm scratching my head because I wish as a journalist Miami could be a little bit more transparent, but right now it's it's just a wild thing. But at the end of the day, we're just waiting to see what the team says, and then from there we'll basically go from there.
Yeah, it's hard being sort of a journalist and just being you have to be the tape recorder sometimes for things like this, but it would be nice if we could get a little transparency behind this. I think Don Garber was a little hesitant to play all of his cards. He did call it, just overwork and schedule congestion. I think a lot of people in Cincinnati are also like, well, if that's the case, then why doesn't Denis Bouanga have a justifiable, absence from the All-Star game as well? He was able to play it. I don't know if there's been any open talk about that down in Miami either, but it seems like an apt comparison.
Yep, and I saw a couple of tweets on that. I think Hani Mukhtar was another comparison. He played almost all of the minutes for Nashville SC this season, and he was still at the All-Star game, albeit like they didn't, they weren't at the Club World Cup and they didn't have these extra games, but still at the end of the day, they showed up and they did their thing for the league. But yeah, I don't think it's a disrespect thing from Messi and Alba either. I genuinely just think that Mascherano didn't want to risk them, and I do feel bad for the fans who did show up to Austin wanting Messi and Alba to be there, but yeah, Miami, they're just notorious for doing things like this. So yeah, at the end of the day, we just have to wait and see.
Well, let's hope we can get some answers at least in the next 24 hours coming up. But let's also talk a little bit about their performance recently. It's hard to believe that looking at the stats, looking a little bit past the Red Bulls game and back at the Cincinnati game, that Cincinnati is the only Eastern Conference team that Messi has not scored against. 13 goals, 5 assists in the last 8 matches, but scoreless against FCC. I guess maybe from the perspective of the Miami media, is the overall thought that FCC found a glitch to exploit, or was it pretty much just an off night?
Honestly, I think it's a combination. Like for years, the Leagues Cup or league games, like these two teams have just been constantly at it. I remember, just several instances of Cincinnati and Miami. Just I believe during the Leagues Cup, I think it was that last minute header from Leo Campana that sent Miami, I think, was to the semifinals. It's been such a long time, but yeah, these two teams have been going at it. I do think Cincinnati just knows how to play Messi super well. I think they've worked out, regardless of who the manager is or the player personnel, they've worked out how to just play Messi hard and not to keep him less effective for Miami, which is basically try your best to limit him and then limit his options around him. And usually, if Miami can't hit the players around Messi 99% of the time, the offense doesn't click. I think the last couple of games Messi has had a crazy amount of goal contributions, which if you take that out of the team, I mean, it's Messi. You take him out of any team, it's going to be bad. But Miami specifically this season, you don't play him, which is rare. The team plays worse. So, but with FC Cincinnati, going back to that, I do think they just found a way to neutralize that, to make it difficult for him. And dare I say, the intimidation factor, especially when you play in that stadium up there in Ohio. It's a great stadium. First of all, the fans are incredible. And I remember last season that 6-0 or 6-1 loss that Miami suffered. That was scarring for the fan base, really, and a shock to us journalists as well. So I do think there's like a couple of lingering feelings regarding that, and just the rivalry as a whole. So I do think Cincinnati has just found a way to neutralize that and to play to their strengths offensively and to nullify whatever Miami's doing in attack.
Yeah, that 6-1. I mean, granted, you didn't have Messi, you didn't have Suarez.
Yeah.
You had Busquets play part of the game because of the red card. But I mean, just to get back to that, I mean, how big of a shock to the system was that? You had mentioned that even the media was a little, whoa, what happened here? This isn't like a Miami at all.
Yeah, like you said, it was a bizarre, it was a strange game. I remember covering that, and it felt off for Miami, and I just knew it probably wasn't going to be a fun night for them. So, and when the goals started falling for Cincinnati, it was like, okay, I figured this would happen. No Messi, and then Busquets got the red card, and it was just like, okay, guys, you got to get together, and it was just a crazy game for Miami. Well played from Cincinnati. But yeah, I do think last season that was, for me personally, that was kind of I wouldn't say turning point, but the game where we were like, oh, obviously, Miami were susceptible to leaking goals last season. They still are now, but I guess honestly, I do think statistically they're a slight improvement this season. But last year, that game, I think that was the first time I was like, okay, they'll win Supporter Shield, but you get to the playoffs and we saw what happened with Atlanta. There were weaknesses to be exploited, and Cincinnati showed that even without Messi. But still, it was a crazy game, and for me, that was kind of the pause moment for the club, and part of the reason why I wouldn't say that game psyched them out of the playoffs, but there were weaknesses, and Atlanta just did a really good job at exploiting that, and ultimately they ended up kicking Miami out of the tournament. So yeah, that game was, in hindsight, looking back at it, was a bit of a turning point for sure.
I hope we were at least showed a little bit maybe of the gameplay that Atlanta had maybe borrowed off of, but obviously we needed some of our own. We had the same fate in the playoffs as well. Let's look a little bit at that last game in Cincinnati. One of the big things I thought was Oscar Ustari, the goalkeeper, for coming off due to injury. You had Novo come on and sort of replace him. Didn't seem like he was quite ready when the goal started to come in. I mean, how much can be attributed to that loss of the goalkeeper?
Yeah, for Oscar Ustari, I think initially he signed last season because Miami were short a couple goalkeepers, and he was a free agent. I don't want to insinuate that it's just Messi and friends doing the player recruiting, but Messi he and Messi have played together, so it was a natural fit. And this season he's come in and done actually a really good job, in my opinion. He's done well to play out of the back. He's essentially a 12th outfield player for Miami. So yeah, he's done a good job in that regard. Shot stopping, just playing out of the back, just being more communicative. With Drake Callender out due to injury, I think he's done well to step up as. Usari's 38, so he's done well to step up as a veteran in that regard. But when during the last few matches where Rocco Rios Novo had to come in, he's obviously not as experienced. He's still young. I think he's still in his early 20s. So, and it shows. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think Rocco's, he's, you want your goalkeepers to be a little bit older and more experienced. So, yes, I would say their play styles are kind of similar, but not really. But with Rios Novo, he's a younger keeper and may not have the game experience in order to game manage certain situations. For instance, Miami will like to play out of the back, but Rocco Rios Novo is not necessarily as good with his feet as Ustari is, so it may be quite difficult for them to do that, and that leads to errors, which we've seen, and just difficulties playing out the back. But with Ustari, it's a lot more comfortable. So with Ustari still out, we're probably going to see Rios Novo starting goal this upcoming weekend. So that's another bit of player personnel that Cincinnati can potentially exploit, high pressing and just making it difficult for Miami to play out of the back.
I also want to bring that up because Maximiliano Falcon got his yellow card, so he's on accumulation suspension. But it as much as Inter Miami have been scoring in bunches and loads, obviously, a brace by Messi every game seems to be a given, but they have not had a clean sheet, I think, since Chicago. I want to say a 0-0 draw. Is the defense a major concern? And really, I'm assuming that this absence of Falcon is going to compound that.
Yeah, defensively, I mentioned earlier that the team may be slightly better compared to last season. I think, okay, they're still conceding, but I would say they're not leaking as many goals. If you look at statistically, I think they're only slightly bit better, but defensively, yeah, it is a bit of concern that Falcon, a huge concern actually, because Noah Allen is still out due to injury, Ian Frey is not available. So right now, Miami's down to Thomas Avilas and Gonzalo Lujan and Ryan Saylor, which is three center backs. So if one of them gets injured mid-game, then you have to go to Ryan Saylor, who hasn't gotten consistent minutes. So defensively, it may be a rough go-around for Miami. I will say Thomas Avilas is notoriously known for getting carded. So against Cincinnati, it's always a difficult game when Miami plays them. So I foresee that happening for sure. But yeah, I guess if they just keep it calm and try not to do anything silly, it should be okay.
Okay, let's I think we can sort of step away from the Cincinnati game. It, as much as it was 10 days ago, or give or take, it's still brand new setting. I think Messi, if he plays, is going to have that chip on his shoulder. But let's look a little bit at what the future could be for Miami as well. Today, transfer window opens. Of course, the long-awaited rumor of Rodrigo de Paul joining the team. A few weeks ago, it felt like it was a possibility, but now it feels more like a here we go. How is he going to fit on this team if he does join? Is it just merely being a Messi friend that he'll fit in, or how do you see him fitting in Marciano's style?
Yeah, I think he'll fit in pretty quite well, actually. With Rodrigo de Paul, you're getting a crazy a guy with a crazy engine, great vision, attacking eye, can help out defensively as well. So I think Miami is getting obviously a World Cup winner, a guy who has chemistry with Messi. So it's going to probably fit pretty seamlessly, I think, in this 4-2-3-1 that they're playing right now. He'll slot in next to Busquets. So Busquets will have a younger, energetic, more attack-minded midfielder who can play the box-to-box role, combine well with Messi. So Messi doesn't have to continually drop back to midfield to pick up the ball and dribble. He can just stay on the front line and do Messi things. So with DePaul coming in, he's going to not only like experience, winning ability, technical ability. I'm actually, I was talking to a couple colleagues. I was shocked that Miami was able to get the deal done. I thought we were all, Busquets was in for a mid-season retirement, but Miami found a way to negotiate and bring him in on a DePaul on loan, which is smart cap maneuvering, on loan for 6 months, and then he'll kick in as a DP next season when I don't want to speculate who will leave out of the current three DPs, but I think DePaul is going to be a great signing. But still, you can sign DePaul, but defensively, Miami will still need to get it together in that regard, and just try not to leak as many goals if you want his impact, if you want DePaul's impact to be felt on the field.
So you'd be seeing more of like a defensive 4-4-2 with both Busquets and DePaul playing a little bit of maybe a twin six in that.
Yeah, I do think it'll be more of a DePaul playing as an advanced 8. Really, I think if you the last couple of games, Benjamin Karmaski, who's an academy player who played, he's mentioned before that DePaul is one of the players that he looks up to. So I find it funny how Mascherano has deployed Karmaski in sort of a DePaul role, which is box to box, just try to make yourself useful, come back on defense, get up and attack. And I think Busquets will play that deep line playmaker role when where Miami plays a 4-4-2, and they have guys like Telasco Scovia, Tadeo Yante, on the flanks, and just kind of combining and finding space where it will be. I'm intrigued to see how quickly he can get on the field for Miami. I know his last game was like a month ago for Atletico Madrid during the Club World Cup. So, I'm intrigued to see how he'll fit in tactically. But I think it's going to be a really interesting to see how DePaul can cover all that space next to Busquets. It is a double pivot, so there's going to be lots of spaces in to attack for opponents. So I think it could be a little tricky, but still, I do think it'll be more positive than negative.
Okay. I'm definitely going to look at the present version of Miami. How DePaul fits in there will be interesting. It feels like this will be something that might take more shape after the Leagues Cup. And that way you're able to bring Kramashi off the bench. You're able to bring Redondo off the bench, get them at more as super subs than anything on this team.
Okay, yeah, I think with...
go ahead. Sorry.
My apologies. But yeah, I agree with you. I think with Kramashi, there's a lot of young academy players for this team, like David Ruiz, Kramashi, Santiago Morales, who is the son of Javier Morales, ex-Real Salt Lake legend, who will come off the bench and play that midfield role, maybe a little bit more advanced. But yeah, certainly Miami do have the attacking options off the bench for sure.
The Jersey Swap podcast is also sponsored by Beyond Exercise. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS, MLS Next Pro, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. So let's look at this game in general. Right now, I think looking at Cincinnati, we have a few IR situations. I think Yuya Kubo probably going to be unavailable again. Of course, Obi Nwobodo still out. Looks like Evander and Miles Robinson are going to just slot back in, even though they played a little bit of the All-Star game. And hopefully we get to see also somebody stepping up in front. Of course, Kevin Denke didn't play too good the last time these two teams faced off. That was, I think, the one where he felt he wasn't injured, but was injured. So you won't be seeing Kevin Denke there. How do you feel Miami's going to set up? And I mean, we're going to assume that Messi and Jordi Alba are available.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's crazy to think that there is a timeline where they do potentially get suspended. Honestly, I don't know, for league integrity, maybe they should have some sort of fine, I guess, because it's it's just for the sake of the All-Star game. It was kind of abrupt how they just didn't show up, in my opinion, personally. But I do think they'll play at the weekend. And as far as setup goes, I think it'll be the same old 4-4-2 with Messi, Suarez up top, Segovia, Busquets, Kremashki, Tadeo Yande, and then Jordi Alba, no Maxi Falcon, so it would be Gonzalo Lujan, Thomas Avilas, and then Marcelo Weigand as the right back, and in goal would be Rios Novo. But yeah, it'll be the same old 4-4-2 Miami has used with a lot of fluidity coming from the flanks. Messi dropping deep, Suarez trying to make something happen. He's not been scoring goals, but he's gotten quite a few assists this season. I think he's at 9 or 10, which is pretty high for a striker, but it's, Suarez, it's not something that he isn't used to. He's done it before, but yeah, I think it'll be a typical 4-4-2. Same thing as same formation as the last game Miami played against Cincinnati, albeit with a little bit more rest. I think this go round will be much more competitive. I think the last game, I think you and I both saw by the 80th minute, Miami was visibly gassed, and it was no shock that that Cincinnati played such a great game, and they were really professional about it and did what they needed to do. But this go round, I do think it'll be a lot more competitive. Maybe I still give Cincinnati the edge in regards to just, I guess, cohesion in terms of team play, but I do think Miami will come out looking to, I guess, for lack of a better word, revenge, if you want to say that in regards to the game. But yeah, I think the formation won't be changed, or it'll be the same game plan that they had the first go round when they played Cincinnati.
And I think you're going to see a similar setup for Cincinnati as well. You should have the likes of Pavel Buca and Brian Anunga in the middle. Anunga's had some really good games. He's my X factor in this. If he's able to sort of silence the midfield and make it so that Messi is not buzzing too much around there, I think he's going to be the disruptor and keep the defense on keel. That way that Matt Miazga doesn't have to patrol everything as the center back, and they're able to shut down this offense. I think you're still going to have the likes of, I'm looking up top here, probably Valenzuela up top again, Dado Valenzuela. How the rest of the offense fits in, we'll see. I think we've gotten kind of lucky with Denke being injured that we've still been able to find some offense. Luca Orshano is sort of, found a little bit of a spark again. Hopefully he has another good game. If he can start pulling up some of these games and giving both offensive firepower and not being so weak on the wing back, I think you got yourself an FC Cincinnati road win. That's my prediction. My predictions are rarely right.
Yeah.
So I will say this will be a 2-1 victory for FC Cincinnati. If you had skin in the game, we have our little contest, the Growler Cup, where all of our Patreons are able to predict the win or the score and who wins. Do you have a prediction for us?
Honestly, since it's I'm like similar to you, I'm really terrible at predictions. Every time I predict something, it goes super left. So I baseline, I do think it'll be competitive. I think Cincinnati will score more than one goal. So I'll say a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be a hard game for both sides. I think Miami will want to come out early and get some goals and probably try to bunker to nullify what Cincinnati is going to try to do. But Cincinnati are still a great side. They play great soccer, so I think they're gonna come back and notch 2 goals. So I'll say a 2-2 draw for both sides.
That's interesting because I don't think our teams really draw as much as we think. 3 draws for Cincinnati, 5 for Miami, but I think a lot of those were early in the season more than anything. So a draw at this stage, I don't think either team would be too unhappy about that.
Yeah, especially with the personally, I don't think Miami's in the supporter shield race this season, even though mathematically they're still in it. But yeah, regarding the shield race, I think it'll probably be best for both teams to share the points. But yeah, it should be a great game.
Well, I mean, we'll see. There's I think a lot of juicy matchups that Miami has down the stretch. Some of the away games, Orlando, Charlotte, New York City is never easy to play at. Nashville to end the season. Miami, it's going to be interesting. I really think that we have maybe 8 or 9 teams currently that could easily get the Supporters Shield this season, and Miami's definitely one of them.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they can repeat that. Last season was such a runaway for them, and they have shown their weaknesses this year as well. But as you said, it's MLS, and every team and any given day, anyone is competitive, and it's yeah, any like you said, 9 teams. I'm still in shock at how quality the league is, and yeah, I think this weekend's game is probably one of the marquee matchups in terms of when and if the Shield race goes down to the line.
Yeah, well, it'll be exciting to watch. I'm sure that we'll have a big crowd of fans coming down there to celebrate the orange and blue.
Awesome.
So, are there any like pointers around the stadium? Like, if we're going to a game there, where would you say is like the best place to get like something to eat there? This is
I'll be
Miami.
honest.
We're talking
Yeah.
about good food in Miami.
Yeah. Yeah, the food is great. I will say, around the stadium, there's not there's not a lot to do. I'll be honest. It's in the middle of an airport area. There's no like setup of like malls or anything. So the best bet is the Dunkin' Donuts around the corner there, which is it's a good Dunkin' Donuts. Like the donuts are great, the coffee is great. So if you want like pregame snacks, you go get Dunkin' or what have you. But I will say the in-stadium food is really great if you're willing to spend $15 on like a Cuban sandwich. I swear it's really good, but it is a little pricey. But yeah, so in-stadium food, that Dunkin' around the corner, and I will say try to get there early. The traffic there is quite difficult to maneuver. But the away section, it's in a good spot in the stadium where it's quick, easy access, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. But yeah, and if you do want food, you gotta like travel 10 minutes down the road to another city where there's more options. But yeah, the in-stadium foods is really great though.
I think if people are there for the weekend, they should be able to find a good Cuban sandwich somewhere in the location.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is Miami we're talking
Yeah.
about. Well, thanks especially for this like sort of peeling back the layer here. I still think we're going to see Miami and Alba and Messi and Alba play for Miami. I don't think that's going to come down in game time decision. I think it's going to be a fine at most.
Yeah, same.
We'll see. But let's wrap things up a little bit. It's very good to hear you. Very good to hear your expertise. Where can we find you on social media? Anything where we want to see more of your work?
Yeah, so all my stuff is on Twitter X at AAW_1998. All of my Substack, the Heron's Nest, is on there. I had I'm still in college, so I did an internship for AM New York, which is a great paper. So if you want to read my features for that, I did a really cool one on an artist who did the World Cup poster for New Jersey, New York. It's pinned to my page, so if you want to read that, yeah, everything's there on my Twitter. And if you want to read my Inner Miami stuff, it's on my Substack at the Heron's Nest.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to link everybody there. We'll read more of your stuff. And of course, if you want to read more of our stuff, we've got a lot of stuff that we like to present as well. Go to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Check us out in Cincy Soccer Talk on all the social media outlets, or go to your favorite podcasting platform. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. Listen to our podcast. We've got a ton of good stuff. On behalf of myself, on behalf of Alex, thank you very much for joining us for this 30-minute jersey swap. Keep your kit clean, Alex. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me on.